All right, ladies, tonight we are going to actually finish up the part of our book of the one thing by covering chapters 17 and 18, and then the final chapter that is putting the one thing to work. And then next week, we will go through kind of just a cursory fashion, the workbook, so that you can use this on your own time. But I think there are some really important key points that we need to cover so that you can make sure that you're using your one thing and creating that habit of yourself. And of course, it should go along with your 65 days in a wake up. Of course, that's where that idea came from, is from this book. So let's start out with chapter 17. And remember, we're in part 3, where we're talking about extraordinary results, unlocking the possibilities within you. And so chapter 17 talks about the 4 thieves. And he has a quote here from John Carmack that said, "Focus is a matter of deciding what things you're not going to do." And I thought that was really fascinating. When I thought about what am I going to do, it's what you're not going to do. So you really have to maintain laser focus. And he talks about a thing called the Good Samaritan experiment. And this was really fascinating because they were all about the parable of the Good Samaritan, which of course is a biblical story about helping people in need. And the point of the Good Samaritan was, you're supposed to love thy neighbor as yourself, right? So you're supposed to help people that are in need, no matter who they are, no matter what the situation, you're supposed to stop and do that. And the reason it came about in the Bible is because the priests and the leaders in the religious community were not allowed to touch people who were sickly. So they would literally step over people in the street. They would walk away from them, and they would try to avoid, especially a dead body, if they thought it were a dead body. So instead of stopping to see if the person were alive and was in need of help, they would go to the opposite side of the street and keep on going. And so it's interesting to find out that these seminary students that were a part of this particular study, the researchers of the study had planted a man along the way, and the person was slumped on the ground, coughing and apparently in distress. And in the end, fewer than half the students stopped to help, but the deciding factor wasn't the task, it was time, because they were all in a hurry to get to where they needed to go. And so some, they actually stepped over him in their hurry to go to this training that they were doing. So if a seminary student can so easily lose focus on their real priority, do the rest of us even have a prayer? And I thought that was really fascinating to consider, that they're rushing past the very thing that is the most important one thing for them to minister to someone in need. And they're running past to get to this class and, climbing over somebody who is obviously in need. And that was pretty interesting. So clearly, our best intentions can easily be undone. And 4 thieves hold you up and rob you of your productivity. It's up to you to stop these thieves in their tracks. And the 4 thieves of productivity are: 1, the inability to say no. I know that's a big one that is always plaguing, especially women, right? The fear of chaos is number 2. Number 3, poor health habits. Most of us here are good about that, although sometimes that gets left by the wayside, right? And number 4, environment doesn't support your goals. And that's a big deal. It has to do with where you are, like what Marianne just showed us with those beautiful dolphins in her office. I have my dream board in front of me. I've got my favorite wall hanging that my husband got me behind me with the angel. I've got all the encouraging notes I've gotten from leadership. I've got things around me, all of my product samples, so that I'm surrounded by my longevity items, my little gift from Denise and Tom, the things you're passionate about are not random, they're calling, all these things that I see. The compass, right? We talk about the compass all the time. So these are the things I look at when I sit here in my office, so that I can have that positive energy, right? So let's start at number 1, the inability to say no. It's one thing to be distracted when you're trying to focus. It's another entirely to be hijacked before you even get to. Say no to anyone or anything that could derail you. Peers will ask for your advice or help, right? Coworkers will want you on their team. Friends will request your assistance. Strangers will seek you out. Invitations and interruptions will come at you from everywhere imaginable. How you handle all of this determines the time you're able to devote to your one thing and the results you're ultimately able to produce. So when you say yes to something, it's imperative that you understand what you're saying no to. Sidney Howard, who is the screenwriter for Gone with the Wind, said, "One half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it." So the best way to succeed big is to go small. And when you go small, you say no a lot because you're creating that limitation. If your focus is so laser focused that you're looking at just that one thing, everything else becomes unnecessary, right? Remember how this is all coming together. Steve Jobs said that focusing is about saying no. And each additional obligation chips away at your effectiveness at everything you try. So the more things you do, the less successful you are at any one of them. You can't please everyone, so don't try. And I have a little note in here, you're not an avocado. And that is something that Denise brought up and we made a big joke about. And I sent a mug that had the picture of two little happy avocados with, kind of dancing with each other. It's, you can't please everyone. You're not an avocado. And the idea is that most everybody loves avocados because there's not too much to hate about them, right? So remember, saying yes to your one thing is your top priority. Saying no to anything that keeps you from keeping your time block should become something you can accept. And sometimes saying no is hard, right? All of us struggle to some degree with saying no. Being needed is incredibly satisfying, and helping others can be deeply fulfilling. Seth Godin, who is a master marketer, says you can say no with respect, you can say no promptly, and you can say no with a lead to someone who might say yes, right? So it's okay. And you love this example. Yeah. Just saying yes because you can't bear the short-term pain of saying no is not going to help you do the work. Your yes, keep your yes and say no in a way that works for you and for others. So you can say to somebody, "Oh gosh, gee, I know the answer to that question. This is where you can find it." And that was something one of my uplines had taught me, is that if you continue to be the one providing the information all the time, you're going to spend all of your time providing information. So you need to be able to refer people to the things they need to do. And remember, this goes along with the ideology of you need to be the messenger, not the message, and you need to be a tour guide and a talent scout and point people in the right direction and let them do the work and spend the time. Be resourceful so that when they've done that, then, "Hey, Ken." So when they've done that, then you can come back and say, "Okay, so what did you like best about what you saw?" And therefore, you're saving all your breath, you're saving all your time, and you're allowing them to be responsible for themselves, and you're helping them to understand that they have a role in how their circumstance will end up in this business with you or in life or whatever the circumstances are, right? So okay, so many ways to say it that can still lead people forward toward the goal. Like I said, ask them a question that leads them to find the help they need elsewhere, okay? So being specific and saying, what is it that you need? And then you can say, this is where you go, where you could suggest another approach that doesn't require any help at all. Gently prompting them to get creative, right? For them to figure it out for themselves. Everybody needs to be their own adult, right? Redirect their request to others. So that's what's the word I'm thinking of? Where you're delegating work to other people, right? If you do end up saying yes, there are a variety of creative ways you can deliver it. You should leverage your yeses. You can have pre-printed scripts about things. You can have printings or recordings, create a library of answers, right? But again, point them to a place where they can find an answer. It helps to have a philosophy and an approach to managing space. And he talks about the 3-foot rule. And that means when he holds out his arms as wide as possible, that anything from his neck to his fingertips is about 3 feet, and he's made it his time managing mission to limit who and what can get within 3 feet of him. And this rule is simple. A request must be connected to my one thing for me to consider it. So, for example, today, Thursday, for some reason, a very busy day. We have the 1 star and above call. I have to get Gavin back and forth to college. I have a whole bunch of other things that I'm working on in preparation for the book club. And in the middle of all this, somebody that I've been working with as a prospect since August calls me. They better watch out if they're 3 feet, within 3 feet of me, Lanny said. So I got this phone call from this fellow that I've been interacting with over the course of these many months, right? And so I love using the rapid funnel with him and providing information. And I know that he's read some of it. So we're reaching back and forth. And I thought, you know what? Do I pick up the call? Do I let it go to voicemail? Or because this is in alignment with my one thing, I better darn well pick up that phone and talk to him, right? And so that was important. So that was the most important thing. So it meant that I needed to allow something else to fall by the wayside, not the book club, of course, but, we're going to talk about this, the fear of chaos, in the next section. Other things happen because you're doing the right thing that you need to do. So that was the money-making activity, because we're in this business to earn a living and to make money. So we better be doing those money-making activities, right? So learning to say no isn't a recipe for being a recluse. It's rather the opposite. It's a way to gain the greatest freedom and flexibility possible. Your talent and abilities are limited resources. Your time is finite. If you don't make your life about what you say yes to, then it will almost certainly become what you intended to say no to. So it really is important to say no, because otherwise you'll end up doing all the things that you don't want to do. And that's where most people get caught up in the muck and mire of loss and discouragement, right? So Herbert Bayard, who is a Pulitzer Prize winner, said, I cannot give you the formula for success, but I can give you the formula for failure, which is try to please everybody. You're not going to please everybody, right? You're going to run into people. I saw a video the other day that was really interesting, because he was talking about the haters, that there are going to be haters. And he said, you know what? I love the haters. The haters are okay because they give me publicity. And I remember the old adage, there's no such thing as bad publicity. But if you get into an argument or a retort with these people, then you're giving them a voice, right? If they're going to talk about you, that's one thing, but don't engage in argumentative interaction with somebody else. So you want to make sure that you're not letting that happen. And that's another one of the points we're going to kind of talk about. So when you give your one thing your most emphatic yes and vigorously say no to the rest, extraordinary results become possible. So fear of chaos. Number 2. This is hysterical. The not so funny thing happens along the way to extraordinary results. It's untidiness, unrest, disarray, and disorder. Who's ever experienced any of this? Have you got piles of stuff, right, on your desk, on the floor, next to you, things you have to do, right? Yeah, okay. That's going to happen because as we go through this process, there are things that are going to be less important that are going to be left behind. You're going to have to deal with that. Just get over yourself, right? It's okay. I remember when I had my first child and the midwife said to me, when the baby sleeps, you sleep. Because you need the rest. You're breastfeeding. You need to be able to nourish yourself and the baby, and sleep is a big part of that. The dust and the dirty dishes will still be there. So don't worry. You don't have to worry. They're not going to leave you. So you can take care of them at another time. So that's what I want you to understand is the important things need to be focused on, right? So messes are inevitable when you focus on just one thing. Let's see. Work doesn't sit and wait. It stays on fast forward, and things just rack up and stack up while you bear down on a singular priority. There's no pause or stop button. Life doesn't run in slow motion. I just love that. So focusing on one thing has a guaranteed consequence. Other things just don't get done. There will always be people and projects that simply aren't a part of your biggest single priority, but do still matter, and they will be pressing you for your attention. Unfinished work and loose ends can be lying around to snare your focus, right? The deeper you commit to your one thing, the more the pressure mounts for you to come up for air and address everything you've got on hold. The truth is, it's a package deal. When you strive for greatness, chaos is guaranteed to show up, right? Your life may experience chaos in direct proportion to the time you put into your one thing. And you have to accept it instead of fighting it. And that's kind of scary. Think about that, right? The chaos is going to show up, but don't worry about it. It'll all work out. It's okay. But if you focus on the things that are important, then the other stuff will get settled when it needs to get settled, right? Get used to it and get over it. So, if a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign? Albert Einstein said that. So, some things just can't be ignored, and those things are family, friends, pets, personal commitments, or critical job projects. So what do you do? Depending on your situation, your time block might initially look different from others. Everyone is unique. So it all depends on where you are in your life. Sometimes you're going to have to try and outsource for the things you need to get done, right? If you have to beg, then beg. If you have to barter, then barter. If you have to be creative, then be creative. Don't be a victim of your circumstances. Don't sacrifice your time block on the altar of, I just can't make it work, right? Because this is the one thing. Figure it out, find a way, make it happen. William James says, the art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook. Right? So again, it's all about what you say no to. Move past your fear of chaos. Number 3, poor health habits. If you don't take care of your body, where will you live? Personal energy mismanagement is a silent thief of productivity. Have you ever felt worn out and just dragged down because you didn't get enough sleep? And the next day, you're starting out the day all wrong because you can't even focus. And you go, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And you can't, there's nothing to tap into, right? You have to take care of yourself. We keep borrowing against our future by poorly protecting our energy. There is a predictable outcome of either slowly running out of gas or prematurely crashing and burning. High achievement and extraordinary results require big energy. So, meditation and prayer for spiritual energy, connecting with your higher purpose to align your thoughts and actions with a larger story. And you can't run long on empty calories. You cannot run on an empty tank. Eat right. Plan all your daily meals a week at a time. A lot of times that's all that it will take. If you cook with a crock pot or a pressure cooker and you compartmentalize things like for your lunches, it's not only going to be easier on your time, it'll be easier on your pocketbook. It'll be easier for you to stay within regimens that you have planned, whether it's for weight loss or for just being healthier. So those are all great things that you can plan on a Sunday. And actually I think even Rachel Ray has a show where she cooks a whole bunch of things all on one day and then stores them for the week. So most people that work jobs, it's hard for them to cook at home because by the time they get home, they're exhausted. But if you do that on one day a week and plan, I know my son and daughter-in-law do that. They cook on a Sunday and have my son's meals all ready for him to take to work every day. So it does work. Exercise. Exercise because it relieves stress and strengthens your body. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to add to that pot that you need to be able to dip into. Spend time with your loved ones. Hug, talk, and laugh. It's so important. Productive people thrive on emotional energy. It fills their heart with joy and makes them light on their feet. I love that picture. So grab your calendar, plan your day, make sure you know what matters most, and make sure those things are going to get done. So time block, remember? Plan your time accordingly. Knowing what you must do and making the time to do it is how you bring the most amazing mental energy to your life. When you get to work on your one thing. Clear the decks and get down to the business of doing what matters most. Get 8 hours of sleep. How many hours do you guys get? You think? You can write it. You can talk it. How many hours of sleep do you get? 6. Lainey says 6. Okay.
7 to 8.
7 to 8 for Linda. Good job. Okay. I say that I would go anywhere between 6 and 9. 6 and 7, says Marianne. Yeah. So it depends. There's sometimes that I just get caught up with stuff, or I just can't sleep. And I don't know. I just wake up, and that's usually when I'll do my 65 and a wake up notes, right? Go in there and start doing it like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll go back to sleep. So it depends. Typically, if you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, that means you've got a hormonal imbalance, and that means you should be taking hypothalamus. So there's food for thought, right? I stay up late catching up stuff I didn't get done during the day. See? Yeah, so it's a constant, every day becomes ketchup. Yeah, not mustard, but ketchup.
Marianne, I was doing that, and I found out I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, getting up at 5:30 in the morning. I get 2 solid hours done before the hair on fire call. And that just really set me right.
I know I have to wake up because I can't use my husband's sleeping. So it's got to be an automatic thing for me to wake up. It just time change. I was waking up at 5:30 and getting up and doing stuff. And now since the time change, I'm waking. My alarm goes off at 6:17 because his alarm goes off at 6:10. So I either get out of bed then or wait.
Yeah, it's hard, but it is good. And we do talk about that, setting a time. Hey, Colleen, honey bun.
Yeah.
It is good to set a time so that you know when you go to sleep and when you will wake up. Because if you do that, you're going to create a habit. Remember, maybe the one thing you need to do is create the habit of getting 8 hours of sleep. And so if you set the parameter for that and start by saying, no, I'm not going to stay up and do this, or I'm not going to get up early and do this, that's hard. That's hard to do, especially when we're dealing with the time zone differences, and we all are getting up and doing the hair on fire call. And for you guys, it's a lot earlier. For me, it's 8:30, so for you, it's 6:30. That's tough. Yeah. So you need to get to bed earlier. Yes. So, okay, you need your sleep so your mind and body can rest and recharge for tomorrow's extraordinary productivity, right? We want each and every single day to be equally extraordinary. We don't want you having to add on to the end of each day with extra time. Protect your sleep. Excuse me. Protect your sleep by determining when you must go to bed each night, and don't allow yourself to be lured away from it. Now, this is really awesome. If your response is that you have too much to do, stop right now. Go back to the beginning of this book and start over. You apparently missed something. And that just cracked me up. I thought that was terrific, right? Do not disturb ears. Let me see. Linda just sent me something adorable. Hold on. She's always so creative. She does. Do not disturb ears from an MLM boot camp she went to in 2009 in West Palm. Oh, that is adorable. I love it. Well, that kind of goes along with this, where I can't say no. If I can't say no, or in the case I can't say no, this sign will have to do it for me. And that is what came in the back of my book. Some of you I know didn't have this in your book. And then on the other side, it's do not disturb. I'm working on my one thing. So if you have a problem with setting those boundaries, then maybe putting this up on your door will help, just like Linda had the adorable do not disturb to put on your ears of saying, no, I'm not going to let you in. Okay, so the highly productive person's daily energy plan, 1 is to meditate and pray, 2, eat right, exercise, and sleep, 3, hug, kiss, and laugh. Lainey Sharp gives one of the best hugs I've ever had in my whole life. I just love her. 4, set goals, plan, and calendar for mental energy. 5, time block. Hey, Jennifer, glad to have you here, sweetheart. When you spend the early hours energizing yourself, you get pulled through the rest of the day with little additional effort. You're not focused on having a perfect day, but on having an energized start to each day. That's positive energy creating positive momentum. And then 4, the environment doesn't support your goals. And this is a really tough one for a lot of people. Oh, Colleen, her battery, she's having a tough time. All right, honey bun, we're here for you. Your environment must support your goals, and that includes the stuff around you and the people around you, right? So who you see and what you experience every day are going to have an impact on you. Anyone and anything at any time can become a thief, diverting your attention away from your most important work and stealing your productivity right from under your nose. The people surrounding you and your physical surroundings must support your goals. And so if you're not seeing that, you may need to change the people around you, or you may need to ask them to change their interaction with you, right? These individuals impact your attitude, your health, and ultimately your performance. I've seen it. I've seen it with wonderful, loving, creative, very productive-minded people get drawn down and dragged down by people around them who are negative. And it makes me crazy because it breaks my heart. I know how badly this person would want to be able to participate and do something massively impactful for others, and yet to have somebody that is very dear to them tear them down. And that happens in a lot of different cases. And I've seen it with spouses. I've seen it with parents. I've seen it with children. I've seen it with lots and lots of people. And it's just a sad thing. And it takes a lot of extra effort to be able to overcome that negative energy and to be a shining light no matter what, and not let them dim you, right? So you're likely to pick up some of the attitude of others. So make yourself Teflon so it just slides right off of you and doesn't affect you whatsoever. If they're generally not positive or fulfilled on the job or away from it, they'll probably pass on some of their negativity. Attitude is contagious. So don't let them steal your joy. No one is strong enough to avoid the influence of negativity forever. So surround yourself with the right people, and that's going to be the right thing to do. So coming and doing personal development, spending time together where you're going to get positive reinforcement from people who love you and people who are like-minded is going to help you to perform better, to feel better, to give you that energy boost that you need in order to continue on and go forward. Mm-hmm. So surrounding yourself with the right people, being with success-minded people creates what researchers call a positive spiral of success, where they lift you up and send you on your way. Who you hang out with also has serious implications for your health habits, right? It's easy to fall off the good habit health train when somebody else around you is doing something bad, like eating French fries, right? You want to make sure that you're in a place where people are going to respect your food choices and are not going to make you eat pasta when you have a gluten intolerance, right? So you think about that. You have to understand and respect yourself enough and love them enough to say, I'm not going to allow it. Hey, Melissa, glad you could make it. So there was an interesting book that was written by Dr. Nicholas A. Christakis from the University of California. And let's see, The Surprising Power of Our Social Networks and How They Shape Our Lives. The people we see tend to set our standard for what's appropriate, right? Interesting. So you begin to think, act, and even look a little like those you hang out with, right? So hang out with the right kind of people. Their relative success does too. If the people you spend your time with are high achievers, their achievements can influence your own. Hey, Keith. So hanging out, let's see. Yeah, hanging out with people who seek success will strengthen your motivation and positively push your performance. Be careful of the company you keep. The wrong people in your environment can most certainly dissuade, deter, and distract you from the productivity course you've set out on. No one succeeds alone, and no one fails alone. Pay attention to the people around you. Seek out those who will support your goals and show the door to anyone who won't, right? Make sure that the sway they have on you sends you in the direction you want to go. So if people are putting a bend on you, don't listen to those people. And if there's somebody that's close to you, you can still love them, but don't tolerate the behavior and don't tolerate how you allow it to reflect on you in your life, right? Surround yourself only with people who are going to lift you higher, Oprah Winfrey said. If your environment is so full of distractions and diversions that before you can help yourself, you've gotten caught doing something you shouldn't, you won't get where you need to go. What is around you will either aim you towards your time block or pull you away. Get to your time block bunker, right? You want to keep that as a sacred place. Walk through the path you'll take each day and eradicate all the sight and sound thieves that you'll find. When you clear the path to success, that's when you consistently get there. Your physical surroundings matter and the people around you matter. The road to success is always under construction, so don't allow yourself to be detoured. Pave your way with the right people and place. And that's what Lily Tomlin said. So the big idea is start saying no. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else. And remember that you're keeping a commitment. And you can start doing this by saying no for now. And if that's going to help you to be able to move forward into saying no flat out, that's what you can do. And so you can delay it. I'm going to say no to that for right now. 2, accept chaos. Pursuing your one thing moves other things to the back burner. Loose ends can feel like snares. Make peace with it. Just get over it. It's going to be okay. Like I said before, the dust and the dishes will still be there. Don't worry. Number 3, manage your energy. Don't sacrifice your health by trying to take on too much. Number 4, take ownership of your environment. Make sure that the people around you and your physical surroundings support your goals. Screenwriter Leo Roston says, I cannot believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. I think the purpose of life is to be useful, to be responsible, to be compassionate. It is, above all, to matter, to count, to stand for something, to have made some difference that you lived at all. Live with purpose, live by priority, and live for productivity. Leave your mark. You want your life to matter. So that's the end of chapter 17. Any comments or questions that are coming up about that? No, we're good? Okay, we'll go on. All right, so chapter 18, the journey. So I love this Chinese proverb, and thank you, Linda, for making a graphic for me for that. To get through the hardest journey, we need take only one step at a time, but we must keep on stepping. One step at a time. The journey to anything you want always starts with a single step, right? And that step is called the one thing. So right now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine your life as big as it could possibly be. As big as you have ever dared to dream. Right? So can you see it? Can you imagine? Think about all the things that you see that your life will be surrounded by. As big as it can be. What sounds you hear? Are there dolphins playing in the water nearby? Do you feel a warm breeze? Do you hear laughter? Is it just peaceful and quiet? Are you surrounded by children? What is it? What is it that you see? What is your big dream? Are you surrounded by a team of successful people and you're the leader of that group? Are you in a place where money doesn't matter, where you have the freedom and ability to do all the things that you desire? So open your eyes and listen. Whatever you can see, you have the capacity to move toward. Whatever you can imagine. If you can imagine it, you can make it possible. Oh, surrounded by many puppies with lots of land. I love that. That's so sweet. Living large is that simple. So, as an activity, write down your current income, right? And multiply it by a number, 2, 4, 10, 20. And that doesn't matter. Just pick one and write down the new number. Look at it and ignore whether you're frightened or excited. Ask yourself, will my current actions get me to this number in the next 5 years? If they will, then keep doubling the number until they won't. If you then make your actions match your answer, you'll be living large. You need to make your actions match it. Make your actions match the answer. That's how you're going to find that success. Apply it to your spiritual life, your physical condition, your personal relationships, your career achievements, your business success. It doesn't matter. You can apply it to any of them, anything else that matters to you. When you lift the limits of your thinking, you expand the limits of your life. Not only think big, but also take the necessary actions to get there. Extraordinary results require you to go small, right? Focus as small as possible to simplify your thinking and crystallize what you must do. Think small and your life's likely to stay small. Think big and your life has a chance to grow big. The beauty is that the choice is yours. Survey your choices, narrow your options, line up your priorities, and do what matters most. Go small. Find your one thing. There is no surefire thing, but there's always something, one thing, that out of everything matters more than anything. At any moment in time, there can be only one thing. When that one thing is in line with your purpose and sits atop your priorities, it will be the most productive thing you can do to launch you toward the best you can be. Actions build on actions. Habits build on habits, right? Success builds on success. The right domino knocks down another and another and another. Look for the levered action that will start a domino run for you. The knowledge and the momentum that build as you live the one thing each day, each week, each month, and each year are what give you the ability to build an extraordinary life. But this doesn't just happen. You have to make it happen. T.S. Eliot says, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Push your limits. Push the envelope. Go a little bit farther. Make it difficult. Make it uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone because amazing things don't happen in your comfort zone. So get ready to be uncomfortable for a little bit. Get ready to be dealing with chaos, right? The mess around you. I love this story. It's a Cherokee story about a grandfather talking to his grandson about a battle that goes on inside all of us. And the battle is between two wolves, right? One is fear and the other is faith. And so they go through the story and the grandson said, well, which wolf wins? And the Cherokee grandfather says, the one you feed. How powerful is that? fear versus faith, the one that wins is the one you feed. You are in control of everything that happens in your life. Everything. Because of the way you allow it to manifest. God is not a God of minuscule things. God is beyond what our comprehension is. We put limits on ourselves. When he created us in his image, he created us for greatness. You know, think about it. Even the weeds can continue and flourish and grow. So what do we do with ourselves? What do we nourish? What are we feeding? It's only when you have faith in your purpose and priorities that you'll seek out your one thing. And once certain you know it, you'll have the personal power necessary to push you through any hesitancy to do it. Faith ultimately leads to action. And when we take action, we avoid the very thing that could undermine or undo everything we've worked for, which is regret. Live a life of no regrets, right? Go live your life fully, without fear, with purpose. Give it your all and never give up. Effort, without it, you will never succeed. Achievement, without it, you will never experience your true potential. Pursuing purpose, for unless you do, you may never find lasting happiness. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. Explore, dream, discover. And that's from Mark Twain, also known as Samuel Clemens, who is from Hannibal, Missouri, which is where my mother and my grandmother were born. Go live a life worth living, where in the end you'll be able to say, I'm glad I did it, not I wish I had. A life worth living might be measured in many ways, but the one way that stands above all others is living a life of no regrets. Life is too short to pile up woulda, coulda, shouldas. Who might be the people with the greatest clarity about life? And he went and talked to those who were nearing the end of theirs, starting with the end in mind. Because remember, that's what we do. Think about what the end is and then reverse engineer what it is we need to do to get there. Live your life to minimize the regrets you might have at the end. And this is interesting. There was a book written by Bronnie Ware called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the 5 most common were these. I wish that I'd let myself be happier. Can you imagine at the end of your life and you say, oh, I wish I could have been happier? Be joyful. Every day is a gift. That's why it's called the present, right? I wish I stayed in touch with my friends, right? No man is an island. We need each other. We need to tell each other how much we love each other, because you never know when a moment could be the last time you're together. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Be brave. Be bold. Get out there and be you. Be a shining, wonderful creation of God that you are. I wish I hadn't worked so hard, right? Because when you do, you're missing so many things, right? And then the most common regret was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Be true to yourself. Half-filled dreams and unfilled hopes. This was the number one regret expressed by the dying. So be true to yourself. Find that
thing.
Yes.
Well, and I might have told before, but my son, I picked up my son from high school one day, and I jumped in the car, and he goes, Mom, meaning of life. And I kind of chuckled because he's 17, kind of a smart aleck. But he just looked at me. He goes, you have to find your meaning of life.
Wow.
That's the meaning of life, is finding your meaning of life. And it doesn't here about living what other people's expectations are versus your expectations. And, one of the things was he didn't want to go to college. Everybody else around him was like, oh, you should go to college. You're a smart kid. And he wanted to coach hockey. He wanted to do was coach high-level hockey. And he did it and sacrificed a little bit, but he made it happen. And my daughter, same thing. A lot, but she's pursuing her life. She hasn't sold out. She hasn't sold herself out, and neither has he. And so while people are always bragging about their kids going off to college, doing all these great things, but I'm wondering if it's what they want to be doing, what their parents want them to be doing. So,
Amen.
Yeah, this I like this. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And it's a testament to you as a parent that you help them to be able to be strong enough, to be able to have the courage to be who they want to be. And you know what? That's something that Andy and I always said to our kids is we don't care what it is that you do. Just be passionate about whatever it is. So if you're going to be a garbage man, be the best garbage man that's out there. You know what I mean? Just be passionate and do the best job that you can at whatever it is, and we will be proud of you. That's all that matters, is just doing your best. You got to be happy. You've got to have purpose. You've got to try hard and honor your abilities, So get out there and if there's a reason, right? Like our little gift from Denise that said the things you're passionate about are not random. They are your calling. There's a reason why God instilled that in you, to have this desire, to have this passion for something that goes so deeply that it nourishes you to be able to do it. And that's huge. And I agree with you that there's a lot of kids that don't have that, to be able to find that passion. And I think that's an unfortunate thing. And yeah, you know what, Andy and I said to our kids, college might not be the best thing in the world. We've talked to them about trade schools and other things. It's just, what is it that you want to do? How do you want to be impactful with your life? That maybe college isn't the answer, because unfortunately there's a lot of people graduating college with a lot of student loans and degrees that they can't even find a job and be useful at, so find something. And isn't it beautiful what we have here, that we have the ability to, plan our schedules and plan our lives and build a career around helping other people. I couldn't be more blessed. There's so many wonderful things we have. So let's see. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. Due to choices they had made or not, when people look back on their lives, it is the things they have not done that generate the greatest regret. So if you live with no regrets, make sure every day you do what matters most. When you know what matters most, everything makes sense. When you don't know what matters most, anything makes sense, right? And so that's about the fact that there's now too many things going on that you believe the things that people say. You start to think, maybe they're right. They're saying all these things. Maybe I'm wrong. And the truth is, you need to be able to put up those boundaries and stop them from trying to get you to do what they want you to do and be who you were made to be. And he goes on to say, success is an inside job. How do you live a life of no regrets, with purpose, priority, and productivity, with your one thing at the top of your mind and the top of your schedule? What grabbed him and stuck with him was he was talking about a dad and a son, and the inspiration the boy had, because the dad was giving the boy busy work of he had ripped up something from the newspaper that was a map of the world. And he was hoping that the child could spend time so he could be doing what he wanted to do, rather than spending the time with the child that he had promised. And so the child it was on the table, and he lost a piece on the floor and looked up underneath the glass table and could see there was a person's face. And he put the puzzle together so easily. And the dad said, how did you do this? He goes, well, I just flipped it over. There was a face on the other side. It was much easier for me to put that together than to put the geography of the world together. And so it's about how we look at things, right? The perspective we need, the perspective that we have is how we're going to be more successful. The one thing we must all understand, if we are to achieve extraordinary results at our highest level possible, success is an inside job. Put yourself together and your world falls into place. Bring purpose to your life, know your priorities, and achieve high productivity on the priority that matters most every day. And by the way, you are the first domino. So any more thoughts or questions as we just go into the very last portion of putting the one thing to work, and we'll talk about what we'll do next week. Okie dokie. All right, we got a couple minutes left. So
I can't picture things, Pamela.
excuse me?
I do things well. I mean, I just don't. I say, have a vision board, picture this. I don't picture the idea of what does your life look like in 5 years? What do you want it to look like?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that.
You can't do that.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Well, you need to have a goal in order to be able to get somewhere. It's kind of like you need a map to get to the right place. You need to use your GPS, right? So maybe that's, Linda, what you need to focus on is writing down, trying to visualize what it is that you want. And I know that, you want to be able to help women to make their house life better. You want to be able to help people with their finances. You want to go through the Dave Ramsey program. I know that you've got a plan. It may be the idea of the visual part of it is where you're caught up. So are the words easier for you to find? What is it that you think you need?
It's easier for me to map out like a written plan. Just picturing something.
That's what works better for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then it doesn't leave. A lot of this book was about another one about letting the Holy just work on your steps. So to know what your goal is and the Holy Spirit guide your steps is not the way I work. I writing down a plan and following the steps because I don't see, I don't see them.
Okay. So even if you're talking about reverse engineering them, is that what you're saying? You can't do that?
I need to form a task list.
Okay. And when you understand the task, when you figure out what the task is that needs to happen, that becomes your one thing. So as you start to make the list, so if we go back to, if you remember earlier in the book, and let me see if I can find it here quickly, but if we go back to the part where we're making the list, because remember he said that lists are killers of time, right? Hang on, I'll find it. And we need to, there we go, wait. There we go. Okay, a to-do list versus a success list. And so when you make a to-do list, you put down could do, should do for the things on your list, and then take out all the should do items and make those be your success list. So possibly the point is that you have too many things on your to-do list, and that to-do list distracts you from doing the one thing that you need to do to get where you need to go. Does that make sense?
Somewhat.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it a little bit more further too elsewhere. And also next week when we're going to go through the workbook and actually put this into action, maybe that will bring up some clarity for you. So let's try and come back to that a little bit, because I think that maybe where you're caught is the to-do list part and having to extract the parts that will be the most important parts for you.
Okay.
All right. So we'll talk about that next week a little bit, but thank you for interjecting that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so putting the one thing to work, in delay there lies no plenty, William Shakespeare. So what now? So for brevity's sake, he shortens the focusing question to be sure to add ... such that by doing it, everything will be easier, unnecessary at the end of each question. So let the one thing bring clarity in the key areas of your life. So we're going to talk about the personal life and your family and so forth. So what's the one thing I can do this week to discover or affirm my life's purpose? So these are some great questions. These are just some examples, and you can come up with your own questions as well. So to get in the physical shape I want, to strengthen my spiritual faith, right? Anything that you can imagine that you need to do. One second. There we go. For your family, what's the one thing we can do this week to improve our marriage, to spend more quality family time together, to support our kids' schoolwork, to make our next vacation the best ever, right? And don't forget time blocking. Make sure the things that matter get done and the activities that matter get mastered. In your job, what's the one thing I can do today to complete my current project ahead of schedule, to produce better work, to get the raise I want, right? And for your work team, what's the one thing we can accomplish in this meeting and end early, right? Because we want to be productive. We want to get to that money income producing activity and not spend all the time in the preparation part. And that's part of what happens with government, is they get caught up in a meeting and a meeting and a meeting and a meeting, and they never get anything done. So let's get down to brass tacks and get the work done. So, what can we do to create a one thing culture in your team? That's a great question to ask. So keep in mind, it takes more than reading a book and a few conversations or mentions in a meeting to make the one thing a new habit in your life or the lives of those around you. It takes an average of 66 days to create any new habit. To ignite your life, you must focus on one thing long enough for it to catch fire. The one thing forces you to think big, work things through to create a list, prioritize that list so that a geometric progression can happen, and then hammer away on the first thing, the one thing that starts your domino run. So be prepared to live a new life. Ask a very big and specific question that leads you to one very small and tightly focused answer. If you try to do everything, you could wind up with nothing. If you try to do just one thing, the right one thing, you could wind up with everything you ever wanted. What's the one thing I can do right now to start using the one thing in my life such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary, and make doing the answer your first one thing? And that's the end. So next week, I hope you have any other questions or comments, but next week we'll go through very briefly. I mean, we'll spend the hour together and kind of go over some of the things that are here, but I want this to become something that you integrate into your life. And whether you don't have the book and you just go through the 65 and a wake up, or you do get the workbook because it has the pages in here that have the dominoes of the day. There's some really provocative questions that we'll go over to get you started on the path of what you need. Then after that week, Marianne and I are actually going to start some training for Longevity University. So instead of doing the book club, we're going to do the training for about anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks, depending on how long it will take. And we're going to move the night to, looks like Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, so that we won't interfere with some other things that are going on that are really cool. Like Paul Croto and Cheryl Morley are going to have a Thursday night, 8 o'clock get together where you can bring prospects every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I think that is going to be very productive. I'm looking very much forward to seeing how all that will work out for us. And so with that, any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, they're going to show the plan.
Show the plan. Yes.
Bring her to it, and they're going to show the plan.
Thank you.
So that'll be good.
Yep.
Yep. And then we'll let everybody know on what the new, it's a different Zoom. It'll be on a different night.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that won't end the other stuff like Pamela was saying. And we'll be able to go through and do all the modules so that you guys can even bring your team. They haven't been going through that. They're going to learn how to do their, and how to talk to prospects and how to have an invite and compensation works and all kinds of stuff. So it'll be really good. You guys, jump on and bring your team.
Yep. And after that, when we finish up with the Longevity University, we've got some books in mind. So we've got some great things. It's Start With Why by Simon Sinek will probably be the next book study. And then I've got another book called Start, which I love because it says Punch Fear in the Face, Escape Average, and Do Work That Matters by John Acuff. It's just called Start. So start with why and then start. Okay. You love this idea? Oh, Melissa, love you so much. Melissa, I don't think I've ever told you. I love your name. It's like so royal. I just think it's like the coolest name ever. Don Carlos. It's just like you own a castle in Italy or something. I just want to know what.
Right.
We've got this family.
Very
or your husband's family. Yeah. All right, ladies. Well, I love you bunches. We went a little bit over tonight, but I really enjoyed it. So God bless you all. Happy Easter. And then we will reconvene next Thursday, same time, 8:00, just to go over the workbook. And then we'll let you know about the change for the following week after that. Okay? All right. I will unmute everybody.
All right. Good night.
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 Thank you all.
Night.
Night.
Good night. Hi, Melissa.
Good night, ladies. Love you.
Love you too.